there's a lot of reasons why a website can be great or why it can suck, but there are certain fundamentals that make a big difference. One is just how the website is designed, how it feels, the user experience, basically. The next is how fast it goes. That can be seen as part of that user experience. And then there's the underlying technology, how it's been built, what it's running and what it's doing. If any of those aren't properly aligned with one another, things can fall apart. So, for example, if the underlying technology is just slow, you've got a slow server that's overloaded or too busy, the website will take a long time to respond to your clicks because it sends a message to the server has to then react. Imagine a barman that's just overloaded with work. It's a full bar, half the staff are off sick, he's running around, or she's running around, and they get frantic, yeah? So it's the same with a web server. But let's assume we take that problem away. On a lot of big websites, news websites, for example, you have pretty powerful servers that can do an awful lot. So where does it go wrong? I think that one of the most common problems is script and trackers for advertisers. You see a lot of this. And today we're looking at a classic example of this because it's a website that has no real business model behind it other than serving advertisements. So it's not like they're making money out of running events that you can go to or selling subscriptions to a magazine that's a high value thing. They do sell print editions, but that's a separate line of the business in effect. What they really have is just the website. And today we're looking at the Liverpool Echo. So I'm going to click through. And now we get to the Echo's website. So first things first, what's actually happened is we've clicked the link, it's loaded up the page, and it's already giving you this cookie pop-up because I'm using an in-private browser or incognito. And that blocks the website from knowing that I've ever been there before. Now, I think it's Command C on the Mac or something like that. And on Windows PCs, you can use F12. And that brings up what we call the developer toolbar. I'll just size that over a bit. We'll be using this a little bit later in order to just get a feel for what's going on the website. And we hit the network tab. That shows you what's been loaded in. So I'll just do a refresh here. It'll just look the same. We should get the pop-up. Yep. Okay. So we can see that with the pop-up running, and before you've actually accepted anything, there's still quite a lot coming through. And some of these are advert-related or third-party trackers and scripts that are there, but most haven't come in. A lot of it's waiting for you to say accept. And if we hit accept, then everything loads in. If we delete this website, or if we just start a new, if I get rid of that, I think incognito will maintain that. Yeah, so this session continues to store elements. However, it doesn't matter because what we can do is we can go down to privacy and we can actually see what you've accepted, and you can turn off what you choose to accept or not accept. Now, all people who are gathering data about their customers need to talk about what data they're gathering. Technically, there's an argument that a website only needs to tell you about the data it's gathering, and then it's up to you to look at the individual elements and click in. But it's generally seen as good practice to try and say about all the different services in use. It is quite easy for you to check this using developer tools, but again, that's not going to work for everybody. So let's take a look at who their partners are. And you can see that we've got a range here. So when you look at the partners on a website, that gives you a clue as to just what's going on in the background. If we scroll down, you can see Here you've got tap X, 1 plus X, 2K direct, 33 across, 7 hops, AMOB, add 6 media, add colony, add Telligent, addux, add air grid, amoeba, IMS, automatic is there, banner flow. I mean, this is a lot of partners. I mean, Deutsche Post AG, what? How does this even work? It's not entirely clear what's going on here. And to you, if you're a normal user, you come to a website like this, you see a load of brands and names that you don't know. I mean, you'll recognise some, like, there we've got Google advertising products. Okay, but who the heck are Heinzel, AMS, GmbH? Who are Happydemics? You don't know. I don't know. I work in this industry. Never heard of most of these. So we keep scrolling and we scroll and we scroll and we scroll and yeah. So it just the website just asks you to agree to them basically in a block. Now you can turn things off, but most people, when you're just following a link, you just hit accept all, and that's the last time you really think about it. You can click privacy, and to be fair to the Echo, what they've done here is pretty much best practice. I think it's often more than most websites do. I don't think it's strictly necessary to go through it in that way, but I think, yeah, they're a big organisation, they've got the budget to do that and to drill down into it all. So we're going to click agree to all anyway. Now, I'm going to restart the session in effect here in the recordings, because what we're going to do is, let's just clear that. I'm going to hit preserve log. I'm not going to disable the cache because I want to be at least a little bit fair. And we're going to look at 5 web pages and see how much bandwidth is transferred to the computer over those 5 pages. And also look at what's actually running in the background of the browser as you surf that website. At the moment, you can see not a lot is actually happening. It's fairly calm and collected. We're seeing 2 advertisements and for some reason 1 empty slot up here. So what we're going to do now is I've cleared the log, I've stopped recording, and I'm going to hit record and then Control F5 immediately in order to see how things look. Oh, and I'm going to kill the log there for the moment. As soon as it's reloaded, I'll turn that back. So record, Control F5. Right, what's happening? Okay. A lot's happening. I mean, a website's basically navigation, a picture, text, some more pictures, but it's not. You've got these advertisements loading, and you can see how they loaded in one after the other. This top space here is probably the highest bid. Sometimes I notice that this comes through as grey on the website, so it's probably quite a high value on the bidding, and some advertisers just aren't hitting that value, but the bid value of a space will change over time and depending what interest there is in advertising in there. If we look at the top of the developer tools, we can see this waterfall of items that have been downloaded to run on the website. We can see there's a heck of a lot of them. And if I filter that down to just JavaScript, we can see that there are 191 JavaScript items that are loaded on this website. Now, what's JavaScript? JavaScript is basically code. It tells your browser to do things. That can be quite a lot. It can be fetching in content from other places. So these advertisements, for example, they're not served by the Liverpool Echo. They're served by an advertising server somewhere else. New adverts just loaded in then. So there's JavaScript as well to rotate the advertisements because you get paid by how many views the advert has. So once you've had enough time on the screen, it can just rotate them. That counts as another view. That makes money. So this is how the website makes its money. They sell advert spaces. So you've got a lot of these. Some of them are perfectly innocent. Some are things like user analytics. So they want to see how a user behaves on the website. What do they click on? Where do they go? What pages do they spend the most time on? Because that helps them to know what content the editors should be promoting and pushing out there. And they can also see, okay, this guy from Twitter created a lot of traffic, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back to showing all the content. I'm going to hit preserve log. So we've loaded in one page. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. What you notice as well, maybe at the end, is that there's new elements loaded in. So as we scroll down, but there's not a lot here to see. But these are images. So for example, when there's no point rendering an image to or serving an image to your browser if you're not going to look at it. So that saves you a bit of bandwidth. It saves them a bit of bandwidth because this is bandwidth that belongs to the Echo. It'll cost them money. So we're going to click on a couple of articles and we're going to see what we'll do. Now, these on the Echo are video articles where you can see the little play icon. So I'll click on 2 video articles in this session and 3 news articles like this one over here, which doesn't have a play button on it. I'll show you what happens. Okay, so that's loaded in. There's still things happening, and you can see that the video will autoplay soon. That's an interesting thing about the Echo's website. I'm not seeing it actually starting to play at the moment, but let's scroll down. And here in our waterfall, you can see there's more things happening. Interestingly, few adverts. You get these blocks, these in-content blocks as well. So this is the Echo's In Your Area project. Well, I think that's Reach PLC. So Reach is the owning or the holding company for the Echo and various other publications around the country. And it's all part of like the Mirror, people like that. So you scroll through an article, you see another In Your Area block. Another In Your Area block. They're really pushing those. Surprisingly few advertisements on this page. I don't know why I'm not seeing more advertisements. That is really peculiar, and this sidebar hasn't loaded in, so something's gone a bit awry on this site at the moment. Why is that not loading in? Has something gone wrong? Let's have a look at the console. So we can see that there's some errors. Video exception caught. Ooh, cannot read property report. Something's gone wrong with their player. So that's a Brightcove player they use. So that's another third-party service. So Brightcove is one of the big ones in publishing world. They allow for more restrictions on the content than, say, YouTube. If you put it on YouTube, it's on YouTube and it makes money for YouTube as well as for you, for example. With Brightcove, you pay Brightcove for the servers and the bandwidth. Okay, I'm just going to try reloading this page, see what happens. Yeah, we're definitely seeing errors down here. So this actually kind of spoils my session a little bit. But hey, okay, so we've loaded a video page twice, not seen any related content. I'm going to go back to the home page. This is quite a normal way of using a website. Let's have a look at exploding car rocks houses. So what do we have? Now this time the blocks are loading. There's something on the video articles at the moment that's causing an error. And as you can see, there's things like tracking prevention going on down here in the console. Because that's Edge, it will do a certain amount of tracking prevention when you're running in private mode. That's what it should do. So we scroll down, you can see other ways that they try and get revenue too. Taboola is quite a big revenue generator for a lot of publishers. And Taboola tries to serve up what is supposed to be related content or interesting content for other content-based publications or content marketers. Here, this one is seniors aged 50 to 79 are in for a treat this February. Yeah. Mostly adverts, and then you'll get a little bit of related content that's actually served by Taboola. And that's their kind of value add. So you get an easy and cheap way of showing related content on your website, and an easy and cheap way of showing supposedly relevant content links to other websites. At first it did work a lot like that, so you'd see, for example, adverts for, I don't know, let's say the Spectator or the Telegraph in here. So, or the Echo would be seen on another website that was running Taboola. In reality, it's turned into these kind of, to me, not very high quality advertisements, very clickbaity, but I guess they work. Then down here you've got the comments, and then a bit more of these related content blocks. It goes on. There's a lot of it. Let's click on something. Murder suspect hit by train. Sounds pretty grim. So we've done technically two video pages because I reloaded the video page, but they aren't actually video pages, so we're going to have to give up on that a little bit on this one. I'll try again before we finish. I've done a couple of articles. We'll scroll down a bit more. It's pretty much the same as we've covered already. So let's find something else. So mum of 3 found dead. Let's click. I have to say the news is a bit grim today, isn't it? Of course, people die all the time. A country of, 60 odd million people. It's going to happen. So that's our second text-only article, and let's try one more with a video. Let's see if it's working yet, just in case, who knows. This video will autoplay soon. I think things might be working here. No. What generally happens on this website is the video starts playing here as you scroll down, so it sits there gobbling up your bandwidth. There's our... Okay. Can we actually play it? Does it play? It does play if we hit it. So just their autoplay has stopped working. It was working yesterday when I ran through this. So here we go. You've got a website that's running videos, running words and text. So what's happened? What's happened in our little session just now? How much content has been transferred? How much space is used up? Let's take a nosy. Down here in the developer toolbars, you can actually see how much data has been transferred. So far we're at around 33 megabytes, 212 megabytes once it's uncompressed. So that actually gives away that a lot of the content that's transferred is actually, going to stop that, a lot of the content that's transferred is basically scripts, because scripts compress well, so does HTML. A lot's going on. The fact is that it just doesn't stop. You see things loading in for ages after the page has been loaded. I mean, it's finally actually come to a stop now. If we look at, say, images, we've pulled in 6 megabytes of images, but most of those images aren't terribly interesting. And most of it's pulled in by various scripts, so you can see what initiated it. So the actual real content images are somewhere up at the top here, which will take a while to get to. So you can see, Liverpool Echo, so there's various logos, UI elements. Then it's essentially advertisement blocks, tools, so on. So not terribly exciting there. Let's get rid of that. If we go back to the doc there, in terms of documents, Well, we've got lots of documents from other places. We could filter that down to what's actually just the Liverpool Echoes, but probably be a bit of a pain to do that. It's a manifest. Nothing there to see. WebSockets. Let's just see all. So we've transferred 35 megabytes in this session, 215 megabytes of resources used on the computer. Generally, you can see that DOM content is loaded in about a second or so, and then the page is really loaded around the 6 seconds, give or take. You can see up as I hover over that, what's things like waiting, so time to first byte, so that's how long you're waiting for the server to start sending you the document. So it's only 63 milliseconds for it to wake up and send you something. Then it's only 10 milliseconds before it sends you the primary content. You can do this big explanation and see more about it if you're interested. You can tell that the server isn't too bad from this, but you can see that it's not brilliant. The sort of request response phase is pretty good. Queuing, waiting, adds up. So why does a website actually feel a bit slow? Why is it when I click on the 650k semi, not that fast, is it? So the thing is, and I'm running this on a 8-core monster workstation with plenty of memory, plenty of resources. It should be pretty trivial for this to load, render, and display the website. So there's some things going on. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear this, and things will start loading in a second. I'm going to start a new thing. I'm going to turn off. That did not mean to do that. Shift Control P. I'm going to turn off JavaScript. So I'll stop all these adverts, and it'll stop other things on the website from working as well. It's not going to work that brilliantly, but let's see how it actually functions. So let's just clear that again. Let's see how much bandwidth going to a few pages uses. Now, the first problem we have is you don't see a lot of images because these images are effectively what we call lazy loaded. They're loaded after the document's been loaded in. So they don't come from the server. A bit of JavaScript just goes, can this person see this place where the image should go? Yes, okay, let's go and get the image and then load it in. That is just more efficient for bandwidth because often you don't scroll that far. So let's click on this first story, parents hit with £200 fine. And you can see that now the whole page has been transferred. It's 226k. Remember before we did 5 pages and we got to about 35 megabytes. And that's crazy. That's an amazing difference. And that difference is made up mostly by adverts and a bit of video. We still had 30 megabytes before we saw any video. Let's take a look at what it means to the website there. First of all our sidebars have gone. All these tools that come in, like the in your area box, just sits there with this GIF. This GIF isn't anything clever, it's just an animated image. And it just sits there going round and round and round. It'll never load because there's no JavaScript to go and fetch that element from a different server. And if we click through, you get content, but your related content isn't there. You've got your top stories, you've got these tabs don't work. A lot of things break. But this is actually how the website will feel to somebody who is, for example, partially sighted and using a screen reader, so it reads out the website to them, because the screen reader won't run the JavaScript, it won't show images, it just tells you what's there, and it tells you what the description of the image is if the website owners have been so kind as to describe their images. If I click through to another article, you can see that the video loading there. So this is a video article. just ain't going to come. It will never arrive. Because again, this video player is based on JavaScript. Web browsers do have built-in video players, which you can use, but most people don't. So YouTube uses a JavaScript player. Vimeo uses JavaScript player. Brightcove uses JavaScript-based player. Why? Partly because you could easily just download the video if you use the browser video player, and perhaps people don't want you to easily download those videos and share them elsewhere on social media or whatever, because they want to control that flow. They want to get the social media points and win the internet with their viral content. They don't want you sharing it and you getting the internet points for it. So you can see that everything's a bit of a mess on the site. It doesn't look great. I think I've done 3 pages, have I? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's including the homepage. So I've got 2 more articles to look at. Let's have a look at this one. Let's just scroll through it. Let's not do anything. Morning after discovery of South African COVID variant. Here we are. Okay, so that's our 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So I've navigated to 5 pages on the website so we can match it with the previous run. So we've transferred, as we can see down here, 1.1 megabytes, 9.1 megabytes of resources. Pages are finished in 560 odd milliseconds. So the web server and the actual web developers that are responsible for this website are doing a really good job. They're making a fast, quick, efficient website that doesn't use a lot of resources, doesn't overwhelm your browser, just does it. So, thanks for watching all that. What have we learned? The website runs slowly, mainly because of the advertising and the tracking scripts. There are just so many that I can't even think of what's the worst there, and to separate it out, I wouldn't know where to start. It's quite bad on that. The actual core of the website, delivering words and pictures, that performs quite well. Thirdly, there are some UX glitches with moving content. As the JavaScript loads in, you have blocks moving around. Number 4, the site uses at least 60 times more bandwidth than it really needs to. What else is there that we saw on there? Yeah, number 5. If you turn off JavaScript, the website is much faster, but it's also not very pleasant to use. A lot of things just don't work. What would I do to the site? I can think of 3 things that immediately leap to mind. First of all, I'd ask some serious questions with the commercial team about just how much revenue is actually being raised by all these trackers and advertisements, and whether things can be adjusted a little bit, maybe toned down, and see what happens there, and whether there are perhaps more innovative ways in which we could try to sell up access to things like in your area. Number 2, what would I do? I would look at creating some premium content around the Liverpool FC journalism that the newspaper does. I think that's quite interesting, and my research on where the traffic comes from for that website suggests that Liverpool FC traffic is very important to the Liverpool Echo. And thirdly, I think I would consider having the server prefetch and pre-render in HTML some of the elements on the website, such as the navigation and things like most popular related content, things like that, could actually be fetched by the server and then pre-rendered so that the browser doesn't have to do the work. Then it would just send it to everybody that visits the website. It does mean a little bit more complexity on the server stack, so you need to set up little builders, little daemons that fetch things and do things in the background. So that's it. I think that the fundamentals of the website, they're not bad. It's not a terrible website. The web developers probably pretty much on the ball there. But I think that the commercial interests of the business have really flavoured it a lot and have resulted in a lot of clutter. And ultimately, a developer can only say so much can't go in. just makes people unhappy. And the business is the business. It has to make money. So I do see that problem, but I see that on a lot of websites you've got a lot of declining revenue from adverts, from display adverts, and you've even got some like the New Statesman, which basically has killed off most display advertising to try and give a better, purer product. I think that when you're wanting to sell some premium access, that works really, really well. Whether that's something that Reach is going to consider, I don't know, but I think it should. So thank you very much for all that. I'd like to say I'm going to do some more of these. I'll probably hopefully get a little bit more polished at this as time passes. I'll buy some lamps so colours won't change every time you watch, or when we change scenes like this at the summary. I'll probably also invest a little bit more in learning how to do this better. But the key is I'm trying something out, and I want to see if there's much value in this and what interest it generates, because there's definitely a lot of websites with problems. There's a lot of websites with business models that aren't always that clear to either the readers or to other publishing businesses, and I'd quite like to explore that. So, for example, the Times has a very solid paywall. How does that work? How does it make money? How does that compare to, say, the Telegraph's paywall? What are the differences in the implementation? If we look at other things like Washington Post, New York Times, there are newspapers all around the world, and there is variation amongst them as to what they're trying to do with it. We'll also even look at some of our own customers, where I can give maybe some inside insight, but I'll have to clear that with our customers. We do a lot of websites for magazines and newspapers ourselves. So, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you again soon. Bye.